Time for another riveting edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast with you as always from the NFL Network and NFL.com. It's Jeff Chadiha. Sam McDowell is from the Kansas City Star, columnist for the Kansas City Star. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. We're talking Chiefs and Texans. Is this the worst possible matchup that the Kansas City Chiefs could face in this, at this time of year with everything that's going on? We'll talk about that. What about Wanya Morris and the offensive line injuries? If they play with Wanya Morris, can they win? What is the best strategy for attacking the number one defense in the NFL that the Texans will bring to Kansas City? How about the Chiefs wideouts? Can they win against guys like Derek Stingley in the back end of that Texans defense? Can the Chiefs pressure CJ Stroud? They haven't had a sack in 2 weeks. What are the expectations for Nico Collins? We saw the Chiefs really struggle with bigger, more physical wideouts last time out against the Dallas Cowboys. We'll get you our keys to the game, our predictions. It's all coming up right here, right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Literally better late than never. I don't know how many times I can tap a button and just stare at things to try to make it work. I literally was about ready to start dropping. Yeah, tap.
That's the great thing about it is now it made sure that all three of us had tech issues before we started.
Everybody has now had an official issue. So good news, good times. We can laugh about it now, right? Yeah, as we get things going. But everybody's had a little reset of some kind. So it's the trifecta. But we're running right now. Thanks for joining us, for catching us via the podcast. Remember, you can be a part of the conversation. Fridays, we go at 10 a.m. Or a little bit after, depending upon what our computers will allow us to do. So thanks for joining us here on a Friday. Let's start with it. Worst possible matchup for the Kansas City Chiefs. Banged up offensive line, Jeff, an offensive line that had been living up to expectations to begin with before even getting banged up. And now the best combination of edge rushers in the NFL is going to come visit. Is this just what the doctor ordered for the Kansas City Chiefs?
Oh, I think it is. It's the worst, not just because of what you just mentioned with the personnel, but the Texans have a lot of confidence. They're playing with a lot of momentum. They're well coached and they're desperate. And so you start throwing those combinations in as well. They're going to come in here trying to do everything possible to stay in this playoff race in much the same fashion the Chiefs are trying to do. And so that makes it a lot more difficult. And I've long believed that teams who are familiar with the Chiefs tend to have more of an advantage than teams that don't see them a lot. And so like the Colts coming in, I thought that was going to be a factor for them. Texans will be the third time they played the Chiefs in a 12-month period. And so they've seen a lot of this stuff that Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo will throw at them. And that makes it hard as well. But yeah, you look at all the things we're going to talk about today and this team coming in, I think this has to be the worst possible matchup they could face right now.
How about you, Sam? Worst possible scenario that they could have? Like, this is why you don't squander games early, because now you find yourself in a situation that's not about you playing bad. It's about you having injuries at the worst possible position for the strength of the opponent. So now if you'd be like, well, it'd be not so bad if we could lose this Texans game, if we hadn't dropped the game in Jacksonville that we should have won. Is this the worst scenario they could possibly face?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still tougher teams out there. I don't think there's a tougher defense out there, but I think that saying it's the worst possible matchup, I think implies that the Chiefs defense could handle some other teams right now. Then obviously we saw last week that they couldn't handle the Cowboys. I think the Texans offense certainly has some flaws. But for the first time today, our rundown is going to include major points on Chiefs injuries. And it's actually a reminder that this team really has navigated the season pretty healthy, all things considered. I mean, Josh Simmons missed some time. You had Rashee Rice miss some time that was self-inflicted. But when you compare it to other teams, I mean, yeah, the Chiefs have had some guys miss games, but, they faced the Commanders without their quarterback, for example. But it's 2 straight weeks now late in the season. And your point's the right one, Soren, that it's a reminder that you can't lose games because some teams that you think are going to be some of the easier games in your schedule get hot. The Cowboys got hot. They played the Cowboys at the worst possible time. And now I think what you for sure could say is this is the worst time to play the Texans. Their defense is on fire. They've got their quarterback back, and they seem to figure out a little bit more offensively than they had going early in the season with them.
Yeah. Where's the mindset of the Chiefs right now, Jeff? Are you hearing a team that's still confident they're going to go to the playoffs? I mean, I almost thought Andy Reid's, tickle his tonsil comment was almost like, we're out of it, but we'll still be a tough out for you guys. We touched on that on the last podcast. I mean, is this team come in like we know what the matchups are, but what about the mentality of where this team is? Everyone keeps talking about, well, their backs are against the wall, you're going to get their best shot, or are they already mailed in and booking vacations now?
I wouldn't go that far. This is a team that's won a lot of championships and played in a lot of huge games over the last 7 years. So I imagine they are very much of the belief that they can pull this off. But I also believe that players and coaches and people know when they see what they're seeing. And usually if a team is going to change things or have a big turnaround, you look at what happened with Dallas or with the Texans, usually it's because something changes either schematically or personnel-wise or a move gets made. Like Dallas brought in Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson. What are you turning to for the Chiefs to say this is going to be the big thing that changes for us? Like they're relying on a lot of the same things that they've been relying on for the last 12 weeks. And that really is got to be tough because now you're asking people to be more than what they've been. And I don't know if that's something that they can really trust at this point in the season.
Is this team sharp in your mind, Sam, as they get ready to take on the Texans?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's really hard to judge based on like the midweek stuff because we've heard before that there's urgency in the building. Now, I mean, you were out there with me yesterday, Soren, where Steve Spagnuolo said that he had told his defensive unit that they had their best no helmet practice that they've ever had in their 7 years there. And I talked to Trent McDuffie and I asked him about it. And he said, well, the scout team really got things going after a few days off, that the scout team was running at a different tempo and it had changed the tempo of practice. And, my response to that is what I wrote in the Kansas City Star today was, how much does this matter? Because I mentioned on Tuesday, this team has had its back against the wall in game 7 times this season. They've only responded once. And so I think you'd like to believe that this team's going to respond, but the requirement now is something we've only seen from them 1 out of 7 times. And so I go back to it and say that belief has to come from past years because you can't use this year's evidence of it. And I thought that the answer to, okay, what is going to get it going would be win one of these games for once. They did it against the Colts. And then last week, after getting a lead against the Cowboys, they allow 171 yards in the fourth quarter. And so I really don't know now what is it going to take to actually get them to, hold a fourth quarter lead, to come back when their backs are against the wall in the fourth quarter, just because we don't have enough evidence of it yet with this year's version of the team.
Yeah, and they do it, as we mentioned, the tackle position. Like I want to believe that this conversation of Wanya Morris at left tackle is a smokescreen, maybe to let Houston think like it's going to be an easy day. I don't see why you would ever allow that to happen. But Jeff, can I offer one theory for why they would do that? Yes. I agree with you. First of all, that I think it's possible. Like we shouldn't think it's a guarantee that both tackles are going to play and that like Caliendo is going to play. Like there could certainly be something else at stake. But like, let's say they do go with Wanya Morris at left tackle, as they've indicated, and Jalen Moore at right tackle. I don't think that they want to play Mike Caliendo and Wanya Morris next to each other on the right side, because if Mike Caliendo's playing, he's going to have to be playing for Trey Smith on the right side. And I just don't think
you want, with Will Anderson playing primarily against right tackles. He plays there almost twice, I think a little bit more than twice as much as he does against the left tackle. And Will, as good as Danielle Hunter is, Will Anderson's better. I don't think you want the whole right side of your line to be Mike Caliendo and Wanya Morris. And so that's, I think, the most plausible explanation for why you would flip the tackles in this particular game.
Do you think that is what they're going to do? If that's the personnel that they have, do you think that's
the personnel they have? I think that's what they'll do.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point about not having Jeff Caliendo and Wanya Morris side by side. But I mean, I picked the Texans in the points in our program picks on the radio yesterday. I almost never do that. It's complete homerism. It's a bias. I just always seem to see the path that the Chiefs are going to get there. Wanya Morris plays. I do not see the path to success with Wanya Morris out on the field. Do you?
No, I don't. I don't see that. I don't see it. I envision you waking up every night until this game is played in like immense sweats and just kind of thinking this is all going to not be some kind of nightmare experience that you had dreamed up in your mind. I'm like you, and usually I'm pretty diligent about trying to find scenarios for teams on either side to win games. And aside from injury, I don't really see a path where they actually have any kind of offensive success with the group that's going to be out there. And this just goes off what I've seen in the past when this team has played against good pass rushers with a diminished offensive line. And I'll be curious if they really schematically change things up and call plays differently, run the ball more. But Houston is good at every level of their defense, and they play with such intensity, and they understand that defense has to drive what they do if they're going to win games. That we saw them last year in the playoff game hold the Chiefs to 250 yards, 220 yards, something like that of offense. And they had a diminished offense then, but I think that's going to be the same game, just worse with more. I worry for Patrick Mahomes' safety in this game, legitimately, with this lineup.
I do too. And that's the thing is I think Sam laid out what the thinking is, and it's logic. It's good thinking. And listen, I will point out that Andy Reid's forgotten more about football than I'll ever know. And so he is going to set forth this strategy. There's logic and reason behind it. The man is not a moron by any stretch of the imagination. And I think it'll be interesting to see, do you play a sixth offensive lineman, which is what I would probably do, double over there with Wanya Morris and just admit we cannot block these people with just this man. We're going to give him help. Do you put a tight end over there? Or, they're going to obviously have to give a lot of help, and they'll have a strategy and they'll have a game plan for it. But I will rewind a little bit. Let's take a moment. I'm not sure why Wanya Morris is on this roster. And I think this is one we didn't spend a lot of time talking about because they had done such a good job of drafting Josh Simmons and signing Jalen Moore. And so it seemed like redundancy. Wanya Morris, okay, you have the teacher's pet, or we don't want to cut a draft pick. We're going to give him every opportunity to make it. There are players that are on the street that are as good or better than Wanya Morris right now. And it didn't seem like a big deal in St. Joe when it was 90 some odd degrees that you were keeping Wanya Morris. But now he's got to play. And it is a big deal because I don't think whenever the Chiefs cut Wanya Morris that he will ever start another game in the National Football League. Right? The only team that would ever start Wanya Morris is this one. And it's only because they drafted him. And I think that is it seemed like something you could get away with. Now you're going to have to play him. And I think this goes back to he should have been cut and somebody else should be in that spot right now. They'd be a better football team for it.
Well, I was saying on cut down day, as we were saying who should get cut versus who we thought should get cut, that they should have kept S.A. Pole, which they have back now. And now he's back on the active roster. But you miss time with him getting to know a system. And it's a rookie. It's a guy who didn't play football until really college. So it's somebody who I think needed to be in your system more to be prepared to be playing in a game like this. It's not someone who you want to have their first action in a game like this, to where maybe he could have had his first action earlier in the season. You could have learned more from him. I mean, this goes to your opening question. It is without a doubt the worst game to be missing your tackles, because when you look at the Texans pressure rates overall, they're middle of the pack. They don't blitz a lot. So that you're not going to see a ton of wrinkles. But all of their pressure comes from the edge. They don't generate pressure up the middle, despite the fact that their edges are so good. Like Will Anderson has 30 quick pressures this year, like plays that just absolutely ruin whatever the offense had scheduled. And like those are the plays that kill you. And those are the plays we saw last time we saw Wanya Morris start a game a year ago, where he got benched mid-game, and you can see Patrick Mahomes walking off the field screaming, "It's the same bleeping move." I mean, we have not seen. There's been plenty of times for Patrick Mahomes to be frustrated with his offensive line. That's the most demonstrative we've seen him illustrate that frustration and say, "I don't care if cameras are on me or not. That's how pissed off I am about this." And that was not Will Anderson he was going up against. So without a doubt, it's the worst game possible. I think you could be missing your time. I can't figure out why this won't get ugly up front. Whatever you think is going to happen in the game, I can't figure out why it won't get ugly up front.
Yeah, there's like Soren's old enough to remember this. There used to be a show called Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, and you would see these slow-mo shots of a gazelle running in the wild all by itself, just chilling, and all of a sudden there'd be all these lions coming out of nowhere, just jumping on its back. That's kind of what I see happening in this game.
You remember that? As Marlon Perkins sat in the helicopter atop watching, and they filmed the slow mo of the death of an animal. Yes. Right. Taking it down. It was. I do remember that. And look, let's. You mentioned the comments that Mahomes had. They I'm sure signed off on everything that was in the kingdom, right? The ESPN little documentary piece that they put together. And so they signed off on the quarterback blowing this guy up. And then they kept him. Like, I like everybody on that team was reminded what Patrick Mahomes thinks of Wanya Morris. Wanya Morris saw it. And now we're going to rally the troops. Let's go get them, guys. Like, I don't know how the team runs out of the tunnel. Like, the defense is probably going to come out with some confidence and say, okay, it's going to be a rock fight. It's our day. We got to play big. But I don't know how the rest of the offense runs out of that tunnel going, yeah, let's go. You're sending the guy out that the organization signed off on, the quarterback blowing up in front of the entire country. And you're going to go, that's our guy. Come on, boys, let's go. I don't even know how you make that speech in the locker room. I honestly, like I said, when we pick games, I always caution people, like, you're betting the game, you're not coaching it. When people get into this matchup and this guy's out, I'm like, all that's baked into the spread. I can't get past it. I can't. I usually always just move right by it and go, Vegas has figured it out. I cannot get past this one as to how this is supposed to work up front. But if it does, you'll get nothing but mad props from me. All right, we got a lot still to cover here. We'll talk about how to attack that Texans defense with this offensive line after you hear from our friends at Gann. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, Jeff, how about it? What is the game plan? How do the Chiefs, with this offensive line, go about attacking the Texans defense? Sam, let's start with you. since Jeff just ejected us.
I think that was his answer to say there is no game plan.
I saw him over there. I'm like, oh, he's messing with his computer. I wonder what he's going to do. I guarantee you he did not mean to do that. I'm sure he'll be back here in a minute. But how about you? You start with it. How do you attack this Texans defense?
Well, I'll start off by saying, like, I dug into a ton of the Texans defensive numbers, and like, you cannot find a good matchup against these guys. Like, the offensive line situation suggests you should throw the ball short and quick. Well, guess who is statistically the best team in the NFL defending short throws? The Houston Texans.
Yeah.
The only way I can find is that the Texans are the second worst tackling team in the NFL. And so the Chiefs have two players who, to me, are hard to bring down. Kareem Hunt doesn't break tackles to get into the open field. He does push piles. Rashee Rice, since he came back in week 7, leads the entire NFL in yards after catch because he's good at breaking tackles. So to me, if I see a poor tackling team, it's the only weakness I can find on this defense is they don't tackle particularly well. I'm feeding the two guys who I believe can take advantage of that, and that's Kareem Hunt and Rashee Rice.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great point you make about how good they are against the short stuff, because that would seem to be the blueprint, right? Bubble screens, slants, got to get it out quick. I mean, is that – so do they, do the exact opposite? Do they go, okay, that's what they're looking for, so let's show a reverse, let's play action, let's get under center, let's pound the run, and then let's play action and throw the ball deep? Is that, do we see them pitch backwards as to the exact opposite of what you think they would do? Because that's their only hope. Hit a couple of big ones over the top and win this thing, 17-13 with a couple of deep shots that the Texans weren't expecting.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is indicative of a team that knows what it's really good at, and the Texans know that they don't have to defend the field long, and because the pressure gets home so quickly, that I think they just defend the short of the field, and that's probably why they're so good at defending short throws. I mean, their EPA on short throws this year is minus 0.25 per play, per drop back on defending short passes. Second best is like minus 1.7 or 0.17. Like, they're that good at defending the first 10 yards of the field. And I think it's probably because they stack that part of the field, because they probably think our edges are going to get home. Why have cover 2 all the time and put an extra defender deep when we don't think that the offense is going to have time to run deep routes? And so, to answer your question, I don't think the Chiefs are going to have time to run the deep part of the field. I still think that they have to try, because the Texans are so good at defending the short part of the field. You can't just give up on it. But like I said, I mean, you dig into all the numbers, all the areas of the field, and it's hard to find where the Texans struggle.
Jeff Chadiha is back from his tantrum he threw, storming out of the podcast there. How about it, Jeff? How do you think the Chiefs go about attacking this defense?
What they should do is run the football. What they won't do is probably stick with running the football. I think what you threw out was a good idea. Maybe go with a heavier lineup, maybe a 6th offensive lineman. They don't do that very often.
But who's the 6th?
Exactly. I'm trying to think. Yeah, you're running a lineman to throw out there. That's a Pole, tight end. But I think back to when the Bills played the Texans a couple weeks ago, and the Bills have, if not the best, one of the best rushing offenses in the league, and they had no success doing that against the Texans. And in fact, that's what the Texans do. They're going to stack the box on early downs and make you unable to run the football, and then they're going to get after you on 3rd down, on the passing downs. And so I just, it's going to have to be a very conservative, very risk-averse, a game plan that Andy Reid probably never wants to actually unveil, but it's their best chance is to actually take care of the football, play field position, not put your offense at risk, not put your quarterback in adverse situations. Anything down the field, like Sam says, is going to be a mistake, unless you can really move the pocket, get max protection. But I just don't see a lot of options anything throwing the football is going to be hazardous with those two guys on the edges.
Do we see them under center more, Sam? I mean, they've been effective at that. Do we see them get under center and try to be more effective running the football that way?
Yeah, I think this has been one of the most overblown storylines over the past month, is that the Chiefs are some revolutionary team running the ball under center. The data does not support that they're some terrific under center team. They're good at it, but one of the reasons they're good at it is teams don't play it. And this Texans team is one of the play that more frequently because they don't believe that the Chiefs can protect
Yeah.
well enough to throw the ball downfield. So I actually anticipate that the Chiefs will see a little bit of a different defense than they have, in the sense that they see all sorts of light boxes. They do not see stacked boxes. And I think the Texans are going to stack the box more than what they've seen before, because they just say, our guys are going to get home. We can afford to bring one other guy closer to the line of scrimmage. And probably one of those guys, to be honest, is going to be a quarterback spy.
And when they put that in there, then Andy Reid goes, "Oh, good, I can throw the ball." Well, the numbers dictated. We got to throw the ball, right? Do the Chiefs win, Jeff, without Kareem Hunt rushing for 100 yards?
Oh, no. I mean, anybody. I think less Kareem Hunt, but I think just overall as a team, I think you have to be not even 100, probably around 125, 135 to feel like you're controlling the game. I mean, one thing that they could do, and why running the football is always a nice option against a team like the Texans, you can wear those guys down. If you're running at a Danielle Hunter, you're running at a Will Anderson, your potential of getting them tired and making them less effective as the game wears on becomes more of a possibility. But yeah, I mean, this is, I don't know. I mean, I could see them doing a lot of gimmicky stuff, a lot of jet sweeps, a lot of bubble screens, things like that. And maybe Juju Smith-Schuster plays a lot more to have a more physical presence when you want to run the football. But yeah, I think the traditional stuff we've seen is not going to be that successful against this group.
Yeah, it is a fun game to sit and watch. Like, I always think I think back to the Lions game against the Packers when they were so devastated on defense a couple of years ago. And, they said, all right, we're going for it on every fourth down, right? Like we're just, this is how we're going to have to do it. When you can just be like, look, we have no choice. Like there is some freedom to everybody knows we're screwed. So let's throw the kitchen sink at them. And so I do think that's kind of entertaining to see what Andy Reid's going to do. But my fear is he's going to do what he always does. There isn't going to be a wrinkle, right? There isn't going to be something new, right? Like if this were Bill Belichick, you'd be like, that son of a bitch is going to play 6 offensive linemen all day. You watch, he's going to do it. But I think Andy Reid, he always says, well, that's the great thing about our offense. It's so diverse. Oh, okay. I mean, but I don't know. Do the wideouts win against the Texans secondary, Sam, in this game?
Well, there is, I guess, one wrinkle to that, which is, I mean, the Texans have great cornerbacks, but they don't move them. They stick them in a very specific spot. Like Lassiter plays the right, Stingley plays the left. Lassiter's only played 51 snaps in the slot all year long. And since week 3, he's only played 19 snaps on the left side. Like he just plays the right. Stingley has only played 8 snaps in the slot all year long. And since week 3, only 26 on the right. So you at least know where their studs are going to be. And neither one of them are going to play the slot. And the Chiefs throw to their slot receivers more than any team in the NFL. They've had 1,300 yards this season on routes that originate in the slot, which is 200 more than any team in the league. They lead the league in touchdowns that originate from the slot. Their EPA coming from slot is second in the league. Like, to me, this is where you have to go a lot because you're avoiding the cornerbacks. Those throws are quicker most of the time, and this is the spot where you're really good at. So I think that when you say, can the receivers win consistently against the cornerbacks, I think the answer is yes, because you get to pick the matchups here. And those matchups might favor you a little bit because Rashee Rice is a better slot receiver than he is on the outside anyway.
How do you like the matchup? Chiefs receivers versus Texans secondary, Jeff?
I don't like it if they stick with what they normally do, but I agree with Sam that there is some possibilities with the quicker throws out of the slot. But Stingley is so good. Whoever lines up on that side of the ball is not going to really have a great day. You can just leave him over there, just like a Patrick Surtain, and just shut that thing down. And so this is where having guys like Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown really becomes a detriment because you can't really rely on these guys to be that productive in a physical game. Those guys are usually getting free against man coverage off picks and crossers and things like that, where you're sort of getting a little more time. Like, they got to win now against these guys. And I think even Mahomes or Matt Nagy or someone even referenced that they got to be winning at the line of scrimmage. If they can't do that, Spagnuolo talked about that in terms of the defensive backs against their receivers, against the Cowboys receivers. But I think the same applies to the Chiefs in this game, where they have to win quickly. And if they can't do that, there's going to be a problem. And so guys like Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown don't win quickly, typically.
Yeah, and what's telling about that is like the Texans defense was good enough early in the year. The reason I think that they're so good lately is they're playing way more man to man. Like early in the season, they were a pretty heavy zone team. And so I think you would look at that and say, okay, the Texans are a zone team. They're even good at zone, but Patrick Mahomes has killed zone all year. The Chiefs have just killed zone defenses. They've been less effective against man. Well, the Texans are now suddenly playing a lot of man-to-man defense, a lot more than they were early in the season, which makes what Jeff just said, like winning the line, like the importance of that just intensifies, because I think they're going to see a lot of man-to-man defense in this game.
We say receivers, and we're usually talking about wide receivers, but is this a big tight end game for the Chiefs? Do we see them, Jeff, throwing multiple tight ends out there? I mean, they've had a proclivity, even though their tight ends aren't necessarily, great after Travis Kelce, but is that the solution, is to, be a little bit bigger as far as the personnel?
That helps, and I would not be surprised if they did that. Is Noah great? But what's his situation? Is he still whatever his injury was, a concussion he had?
Against the Cowboys.
Yeah, but
he's been back.
He's been back. Okay, so that gives them some options. And when you go to 3 tight ends, it's nice because you do have the illusion of being able to run the football, or at least the threat of that being a part of it. And you do force them to put some bigger personnel on the field and have to play you differently. I don't think you're going to live in that space. But I do imagine this is the kind of game where Travis Kelce does have to be big. And maybe as big as he's been all year for this team, because if they're taking away everybody else and you can't run the football now, and we know Mahomes is always going to look towards him in critical situations, and this is as critical as it gets this game in general. So I would not be surprised if he had like 10, 11 targets in this game, just to survive each down, each possession, they're going to have to go to him quite a bit.
This is one of the things I mentioned, as far as like looking for any weakness in the Texans defense. Like I not only looked at area of the field, but looked at how they've matched up against specific receivers, against tight ends. And I'll just read off the against wide receiver number ones this year, against other teams number 1 wide receivers, they rank 3rd in DVOA. Against other receivers other teams number 2 receivers, they're 13th. Against their number 3 receivers, they rank 4th. Against their tight ends, they rank 5th. Against their running backs, they rank 4th. I mean, they defend everybody well in the passing game.
And it starts with those edge guys. I mean, when you can pressure with 4, it gives you 7 guys to cover. And
they don't blitz, to your point, Soren. They're not a heavy blitz team.
They don't have to. And so they can leave everybody back there and just come at you that way. We want to get into what the Chiefs defense is going to do. CJ Stroud is back. How do they go about disrupting him? Not exactly a great running team. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Northland Injury Law. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. All right, Jeff, let's go to the other side of the ball. What's the strategy for trying to get some heat on CJ Stroud, trying to slow down this defense? Chiefs haven't had a sack in 2 games. It's been 4 years since they went back-to-back games without a sack. It's not like they've been putting a lot of pressure on anybody this year. What's the strategy for Steve Spagnuolo this time?
Chris Jones play better. George Karlaftis play better. I mean, that really is – it is astounding to think that it's been 2 whole games without any kind of real pressure. And as much as we talked about how Daniel Jones didn't play up late in that game against the Colts, he got a lot of time to throw the football in that game in the first half. And I just don't know. I mean, look, here's the thing. Houston's offensive line is not as bad as it was last season when they played the Chiefs. I think they've gotten a little better in the interior, especially in the last couple of games. Stroud is not the same quarterback he was a couple of years ago, and he's the rookie of the year. We all know that. But I also believe the Texans understand their limitations offensively. And so, again, I think this is the kind of game where they're not going to do anything to put themselves at risk. I could see them playing a lot like the Eagles played the Chiefs in that first game, in back week 2, where it's like they just do just enough to try to work the clock, not turn the ball over, and let their defense do a lot of damage. But I do think when they do have opportunities, Chris Jones, Karlaftis, I mean, those are really the only guys left. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Everybody else in that defensive line is probably doesn't need to be here or is useless. And I do think that this is a
what do you really think, Jeff?
Yeah.
Don't beat around the bush. Come on.
Yeah. But I do wonder how much were they relying on Omar Norman-Lott to be a big part of what this team did defensively, because he's the only thing I can think of in terms of if he could have been a player, it could have helped them. But I just don't see where what they have left is really going to be that much of a difference, even in a game like this.
The Texans' offensive line is not great, Sam. I mean, that is one of the things that, like, this is, an opportunity. Like, they better get a sack. If the Chiefs don't get a sack in this game, then I don't care if they back ass into a win without it. They can't get a sack against anybody the rest of the year. I mean, they should be effective at times at getting to CJ Stroud, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, the Texans should be susceptible to that. I mean, like ESPN's win rate rankings, I think the Texans have the 28th ranked pass block win rate and dead last in run block win rate. So, but I mean, Jeff's right. Like, are the solutions in the room for the Chiefs? I mean, Steve Spagnuolo tried everything last week. I mean, he blitzed on half the downs. And when you asked him about the sacks yesterday, he made the point, which, like, I'm fully on board with, that he looks at, are you affecting the quarterback? Is the pressure's there? But the answer last week was the same. No, you weren't getting pressure either last week. This is the lowest rate of pressure Spagnuolo has ever had in his career when blitzing. Like, when you sort on just blitzes, they only get 35% pressure rate when blitzing. And he's never had a rate that low on blitzes. And I don't think it's a man who suddenly has run out of ideas. I think it's a guy who's run out of solutions and personnel to solve this. When Chris Jones isn't winning, when George Karlaftis isn't winning, he's out of answers. And I just don't think there are other answers in that room that he can do. And this is going to be a telling game for that sense, because George Karlaftis tore this team up last year in the playoffs. And he's got a hand injury. I mean, I think that has been something that probably should be mentioned. It can be tough with a hand injury to be your full self as a defensive lineman and an edge rusher. But, like, your defensive line has to show up in this game, because this is why the Texans offense is very mediocre.
And Sam asked Spagnuolo about, like, why in the blitz been as effective. Jeff, they're not a great running team, the Texans. So this ought to be a really good matchup, right, for the Chiefs defense. I mean, we can talk about their problem getting to the quarterback. They are still a good defense, right? Are they elite? No, can't be elite without getting to the quarterback. And so we've not even put that on the rundown for a number of weeks because they are a good defense. And there are problems for the Texans on offense. So there is reason to believe that they can be effective against this offense, right?
There are, but it goes back to, if you have to pressure as much as they're pressuring now, and you don't have even a dominant pass rush, like a reliable pass rush, the blitz becomes less effective when the blitz is effective when you don't know when it's coming, right? That's what makes it hard to deal with, is when you can't figure out your protection to deal with it. But once you know it's coming and you know the situations you're likely to see it in, or the formations or the personnel, now they can prepare for it. I think back to the Cowboys game when you saw the Dallas run a little rollout play. They moved away from the pressure, and Tony Romo even mentioned it. Like, you see Brian Schottenheimer playing next level here. He knows where the pressure's coming from and moves Zach out to the right. And so CJ Stroud's played long enough to pick those things up. And again, if you're not concerned about other guys in that defensive line, it makes it a lot easier to pick up the guys who you think are coming from the secondary. And this, again, I think this is where missing Justin Reed matters. I think this is where Trent McDuffie not being in the slot more consistently matters. Those guys were two of their best blitzers from the next levels. And so if they're not in the mix, then all of a sudden you really know what's coming. So, but again, I don't think the Texans are going to put CJ Stroud in a lot of positions where he's going to have to be blitzed or pressured. I think they're going to be they're going to run the football a lot. They're going to have safe throws and try to keep it simple.
This is not a team that looks at the Chiefs offense and goes, well, we're going to have to get to 27, so let's roll the dice. They're not going to mind punting because I don't think they fear what the Chiefs are going to do on offense, so they don't have to gamble. Nico Collins looks a lot like the wide receivers that torched the Chiefs last week, Sam. I mean, how much of a concern is Nico Collins? And even Higgins is a big wide receiver as well. I mean, how much do the big wideouts scare the Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Nico Collins is a matchup problem for most teams. And I do think that the way the referees called the game last week, I think plays into a fact of like how physical you can be, because the Chiefs play press coverage more than any team in the NFL. And so when it's called tight, I mean, that changes your game strategy against them. But also Next Gen Stats had this. I was looking at some Nico Collins stuff this morning, and he's like one of the best receivers against press coverage this year. And the Chiefs play a ton of it. And there's a reason he's one of the best receivers against press coverage this year. He's big and he's physical. Like he enjoys the physical element of the game. So I think it's going to be a tough matchup when you're trying to play press coverage against guys who there's a reason the Chiefs are good at press coverage, but when you play against more sizable receivers who enjoy the physical element of the game, that becomes a more difficult matchup. I still think that Collins is their best, but I don't know that I'm looking at this game saying the Texans offense should scare the Chiefs a lot. This is a tough matchup, but I don't know that blanket coverage says, wow, what a tough matchup for the entire offense.
Collins have a giant day on Sunday night, Jeff?
It depends on how they play him. I would imagine they probably would give him a lot of extra attention and try to make him less of a factor, whether that's just, rolling coverage or playing a guy, bracket, whatever. You can do different things, but I think he'll get a lot more attention. And he'll ask some of these younger guys to make plays against them. And I remember when they played them last year in the regular season, they had guys making plays. I mean, they were able to do some stuff. They're not dynamic by any means, but Stroud's a good enough quarterback, and the Chiefs do take enough risk and the pass rush is such a non-factor right now that you could see them doing some things. And they probably feel like they only need to make 2 or 3 plays throughout the course of the game. They would love for this game to be 17-13. They would love for it to be 16-14 or 16-10. And that's what I think they're going to play to get to. And so, again, Sam's right about Nico Collins with the size factor and the catch radius, but he's fast. That's also a factor in this. And so he can go down the field and either 50-50 you or run by you. And so I don't think he's going to go 8 for 170 and 2 touchdowns, but I do think he'll have some opportunities in this game to make some plays.
Let's get to our keys to the game, Sam. What is the key? What are the keys for the Chiefs winning?
You got to put it all on the table. I mean, this is a playoff game, and we've seen in the past the Chiefs layer on some things in the playoffs. And last year against the Texans and the Bills, it was running the quarterback. And this is the most important game left on your schedule by a wide margin. I think the New York Times simulator had something like 50-50 to make the playoffs if they win, and like 11% if they lose. There's no game left that has that significant of a gap. So I think you've got to implement your playoff scheme. And the one advantage of that is that, the Texans allow the most yards per carry on quarterback scrambles this year. And they've allowed the 5th most EPA on quarterback scrambles this year. And we saw the first drive last year, even though like Jeff said, for the rest of the game, the offense wasn't great, but Patrick Mahomes opened it with the quarterback scramble, despite the fact he was hurt going into that game, and scrambles for a touchdown. That has to be part of the game plan this week. I know you don't want to put Patrick Mahomes in danger for 17 games over the course of the regular season, but you're in the playoffs now, and I think everything has to be on the table for this game.
Jeff, what do you got for keys?
Make sure Patrick Mahomes has help. Make sure he's not going out there thinking he has to do everything to win this game and keep this team in playoff contention. Like Chris Jones has got to show up big. George Karlaftis has to show up big. Trent McDuffie, Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, Pacheco, all these guys have to play at a high level because it's part of winning playoff games means it's not just a quarterback out there doing great stuff. It's all these guys have to deliver And you just can't have drop balls, can't have penalties, can't have all these things that have been killing them. And it's as much, and you guys will love this too. Andy Reid's got to go for it every makeable fourth down.
Oh, yeah.
Every makeable, it can't be any question, but it's got to be pedal to the metal, balls to the wall, because any lost possession, you're giving them a lot more hope.
They have to play this game from in front. They cannot get down because they will get their quarterback killed if they do. So I think they have to play from in front. They have to be in contact with the Texans. There's not going to be any rally from 24-0 down in this game. They've got to play from in front. I believe they have to take Nico Collins out. That's the one guy that I'm not letting beat me. If I'm Steve Spagnuolo, he's their most dynamic player, whether that's, they'll be different coverages, but whether that's doubling him when Trent McDuffie's not on him, giving him different looks so he doesn't know exactly what he's trying to get away from. They have to take Nico Collins away from CJ Stroud. Like, that is, I think, number one. The rushing attack is not good enough to just beat them into submission. So, there's no Saquon Barkley. If you give up some runs, fine. Do not let Nico Collins crush you, because he is a home run hitter and he can do it. They've got to take that away from him. And then I think there's got to be a lot of misdirection on offense. They've got to get the Texans stepping the wrong direction and then questioning what they're doing. So I think that is underneath runs. Even if it's 3rd and 8, it's a draw underneath Anderson and Hunter as they're roaring up the field to get them to second guess where they're going. It is the jet sweeps. It's all kinds of misdirection to try to take advantage of the Texans and where they're going. I think they have to do it. What's your prediction, Sam? Who you got winning it?
This is another one that like 2 weeks ago, I think I said I went back and forth. I went back and forth on this one, but I'm going to go with the Texans 16-13. Okay.
Texans 16-13. Jeff, where are you?
I've got Texans 14-10.
14-10. I do like the Texans in the points, but would it be a red, gold, and bold if I didn't pick the Chiefs when it's all said and done? I'm not sure how they get there. I think they do get a couple of big plays. I'm going to go Chiefs 17-16 over the Texans. 17-16. A Butker field goal is what ends it. It's what gives the Chiefs the victory. So I'll take the Chiefs to get it done and keep themselves in the mix for the playoffs. Remember, you can always support the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast by supporting our great sponsors, our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Been with us for years. They've been in Kansas City for years. Since 1994, they've been solving parking lot problems. If you own or manage a business and your parking lot's a disaster, whether you need it built brand new or just the striping, the signage, Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lots. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. For more than 40 years, Northland Injury Law has been helping people who have been hurt in an accident. Voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers. 5-star rated on Google. If you've been hurt in an accident, be it at work, in a car, wherever it might be, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT, HURT, to 22222, or call 816-400 hurt. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red